Coming at number 10, we have Forest Park, Savannah, Georgia. We're kicking this list off with a big one because Forest Park isn't just an innocent looking location, it's also breathtaking. It's one of the most gorgeous places you can visit in Georgia, with massive winding trees that look like they were planted by elves, beautiful lush foliage that decorates the entire area with a beautiful green backdrop, and on top of all this, there's architecture in this place that will make you think it was built for the queen. I mean, look at some of the fountains in this bad boy. But with all that being said, you might not be eager to check out everything this park has to offer when you realize that there's some ghostly presence that will follow you around as you try to enjoy the nature. Apparently the whole city of Savannah is riddled with tunnels. They run throughout the entire city and are under some of the most famous pieces of Forest Park. There are many rumors about the tunnels. Some say that gangsters would use them to transport goods and dead bodies. Some people think that swarms of underground tunnel dwellers lived and died down there while trying to escape the surface life. But the most legitimate claim is that the tunnels were used by doctors to perform autopsies and some strange experiments. Coming at number 9, we have Katish Castle, a beautiful work of art, a towering castle that would be fit for only the finest royalty that wants nothing more than to help the people, or for a homicidal maniac who really wants to torture hundreds of people for a completely unknown reason. Even though this castle looks beautiful and innocent, it's far from that. The Katish Castle was home to Elizabeth Bathory, who was obsessed with torture and bloodletting to try and heal herself. She would send out servants to find poor people and bring them back to her castle. They would either be promised jobs or some etiquette training, but they would actually be tortured to death and drained of their blood. And she would do some horrible things to these people. She would amputate their body parts, put people in devious torture devices, and she would also drain them of their blood so she could bathe in it and drink in it. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that this place is evil. Coming in at number 8, we have Mount St. Helens. Now, I'm going to be a little bit loose on this one because Mount St. Helens doesn't really contain a great evil because nature is really neutral, but it does contain a destructive force that is as powerful as any evil force on this planet. When you just look at the beautiful mountain, which is Mount St. Helens, it looks like one of the most beautiful peaks in all the land. It looks like you should hike up it, build your life right on the side with a beautiful log cabin where you can spend out the rest of your days raising your beautiful family in the wilderness. But I couldn't think of a worse idea than building a home right around Mount St. Helens because it has enough destructive power to cover a lot of the US in ash. And with the way things are going in the world, the last thing we would need is a volcano to blow up and send a massive fire cloud through the sky so it blots out the sun and none of us can grow food, and maybe we freeze to death on top of that. Coming at number 7, we have the Gomangtong Caves in Malaysia. Once again, another touch of nature that happens to be filled to the brim with something horrible. Locals say that these caves are cursed, and for good reason. Even if you don't believe in some horrible mystic evil, you will be scared off from these caves from the thousands of things in there that will gross you out or just straight up try to kill you. The most famous creature that loves to call these caves home are the bats. And beyond being one of the most diseased carrying creatures on the planet, these bats poop on everything in sight. There is more bat droppings in there than the Wayne family toilet. That is a Batman joke for you. So if you've got enough grit to push past an ankle deep valley of flying rodent excrement, then you're going to get blasted in the face with some cockroaches. And these Malaysian cockroaches are massive and they also have wings. If one flying creep wasn't enough for you, here's some more. On top of that, there's a ton of venomous insects and reptiles that call this place home, so if you don't die from being grossed out, you might die from lethal injection. Next on the list is the Forbidden City, Beijing, China. I mean, it should be no surprise that a place called the Forbidden City has a dark past. No one tells you that a place is forbidden because it's filled with gumdrops and $20 bills. But when you look at this place, it's absolutely beautiful. The ancient structures have been around for over 600 years, and when you see something that old, you immediately think of something cute and innocent. I mean, I don't know anything that can live for 600 years, but if I did, it would be this cute old man that kind of walks around super cute and looks like a tortoise or something like that. But this place has a very dark past of people murdering each other to try and get ahead in royal families. Now, there are a ton of haunted spirits walking the halls seeking revenge on those who betrayed them, but I hate to break it to you, it's a little bit late to get your revenge. Next on the list, we have Snake Island, Brazil. Once again, this one is more on the side of nature, but it can be easy to understand why this one is on the list when you find out that this place is called Snake Island. There isn't any sort of dark evil force living there like an ancient curse or supernatural baddie, but there is a ton of snakes that want to feast on your still warm beating heart. I mean, from a distance, Snake Island looks like it would be the best secret beach to live on. It's an uninhabited island, just so innocent, no people living on it. You could move right in and become a hermit. But if you were to do that, it would become one of your worst nightmares, and the reason for that is stated in the island's name. It's called Snake Island. There are snakes everywhere, and some of them are the most poisonous snakes you will ever encounter. Next on the list is Salem, Massachusetts, USA. What would now be a cute tourist spot where you can go get clam chowder and see a chunk of American history that's carved right out of the American coastal city, but it used to be home to one of the most horrible crimes in human history. The Salem witch trials are when people juiced up with a holy rage hunted down and prosecuted innocent people for being witches. Some of these people were just healers or people who subscribed to a different faith, but none of that mattered when the courts got involved. They were all seen as guilty and then hung. Many places in town are now said to be haunted with the angry spirits of people who were wrongfully killed so many years ago. Even though they might have not died as someone evil, their souls became evil after they were forced to be stuck in Salem for eternity. Next on the list is Larnock Castle in New Zealand. Once again, a place that looks so innocent just based on how beautiful it is. This place looks like it was pulled right out of a fairy tale. Larnock Castle is surrounded by wondrous draping foliage that makes it look like you're walking through a mystical gateway as you enter the royal grounds. And once you're in the castle, the massive ballroom is so breathtaking, it will have you saying, "These dudes were ballin', and we should eat the rich." But all of this beauty is sideswiped by the fact that this residence is plagued by an angry ghost, the daughter of the former owner who fell ill with a horrible case of typhoid, and it would take her life. Now, because her ghost died in agony, it walks the halls beaming with spectral energy. Coming in at number 2, we have New Orleans. I know I'm putting this one on the list, but New Orleans is one of my #1 travel places. At first glance, New Orleans looks like the most innocent place you can take your family. There's a ton of stuff to do outdoors, you have beautiful architecture, amazing food. Really, this is one of the best places you can go visit. But when you start pulling back the veil on the history, there is a ton of dark magic pulled into this place. There's a long history of ghost stories, hauntings, and voodoo. Not to mention the city is one of the murder capitals of America, which really makes you wonder whether or not dark voodoo has anything to do with making the people here more aggressive, or is it just the day drinking and hot weather? And coming in at the #1 spot, we have churches. These are supposed to be holy places that cannot be corrupted by evil of the outside world. They're supposed to be the most innocent places on the planet that only house the naive who want to see the whole world work together to become one happy place. But there have been some churches throughout time that have housed some very evil people. For instance, if you go back to the year 955, you will uncover one of the most horrible popes who ever lived. Actually, maybe the most horrible pope who ever lived. It was Pope Jean Paul XII, and he has a laundry list of offenses even if he wasn't someone holy. Let's start with the lighter stuff, which includes premarital gambling, drinking, lavish parties, blackmailing, stealing, wrongful imprisonment, and that's just getting started. He's also accused of kidnapping women and them. It said that he would torture people who tried to stop his debaucherous lifestyle. He apparently blinded a dude for disagreeing with him, and he was doing all this stuff on the church's dime. It's true what they say, that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Coming in at number 10, we have Casa Loma, Toronto, Canada. Let's kick off the list with a local legend. Casa Loma is one of the most famous haunted locations in all of Canada, and at first glance, this place is gorgeous. It's a massive castle that looks like it was built for the sheer reason of hosting massive parties and getting everyone lit. It's sitting on a massive hill that oversees most of Toronto. If you were at the peak of this castle when it was built, you could probably see all the way down to the water with that view. It would have been so breathtaking that it would make a single tear run down your face while you let go of the social standards that say men shouldn't cry. But as I've already mentioned, even though this place is absolutely gorgeous, it is insanely haunted. There's a plethora of ghosts that have been seen haunting this place, both inside and outside of the castle, and there are secret tunnels that run underneath the castle that apparently were used for nefarious things. And there was a tunnel collapse that killed a bunch of people, so you can bet that the spirits roaming around this structure have a bad attitude. Coming in at number 9, we have Devil's Pool, Babadina, Queensland, Australia. I mean, it's called Devil's Pool, so it should be no surprise that this place contains a great evil. But when you take the nature hike through the beautiful forest to arrive at the rushing rapids that is the Devil's Pool, you will think you just walked through the gates of Narnia and a magical wizard is going to give you a gift basket full of love. But then you'll learn about the history and you're going to be like, we should turn back right now before we all end up dead. So the story goes that there was an an Aboriginal woman who was deeply in love with a man back in the 1950s. They were planning to run away together, but her lover was arrested and taken away from her before they had the chance to elope. She was lovesick and heartbroken, so she decided that her life was not worth living and she drowned herself in the rapids, but not before she put a curse on the area. Anyone who falls into the waters is doomed to die, and while not every last person who has entered the rapids has come up dead, at least 17 people have had their lives stripped away by the rocks and gushing water. Coming in at number 8, we have the Tower of London, one of the most exquisite pieces of architecture sitting in London. Just looking at it makes you feel like royalty, and you would suspect that only the finest men would climb the tower and look over the city of London to make sure that everyone was safe. Well, that's what you would think if you didn't know anything about history. This is actually the site where King Henry killed 2 of his wives, and there's apparently a ghost that will come out in the middle of the night on a full moon and pull a beating heart out of the ground. Yeah, I don't know what you at home consider evil, but a ghost that can pull organs out of the earth is pretty sinister to me. Coming in at number 7, we have the Winchester Mystery House, San Jose, USA. The house that was built by the wife of William Winchester, the man who created the Winchester rifle. It's a massive mansion that makes you want to run out and invent something so you can build a structure just as magnificent. William's wife was a superstitious woman who was worried that the people who were killed by her husband's weapon of war would come back to seek revenge, so she had a home built that's full of strange mazes. There's staircases that lead to nowhere and secret passages all over the place. And good thing she built it, because apparently there's a ton of vengeful spirits that spend their days walking through the building trying to seek revenge. Coming in at number 6, we have the RMS Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. A massive luxury liner that actually served in World War II. Once it was finished being a war vessel, the ship was quickly turned into an affluent cruiser and now sits on the shores of Long Beach stationed as a hotel. Not a bad life for a ship, especially one that served in war. But with all the glitz and glam that this ship presents, there is a dark heart sitting at the core. There was a murder of a sailor in the ship's engine room that turned the location into the most haunted section of the boat. The angry spirit of the fallen sailor is said to kick up quite a storm when anyone ventures too close. Also, the ghosts of children who have drowned in the liner's pool have been seen running through the halls. Coming at number 5, we have the Bangalore Fort, India. Even though some of it is a wasteland, there can be beauty found in this desert. The bronze sand stretches for miles in every direction, housing animals and insects brave enough to challenge the harsh conditions. And if you were brave enough to trek through the desert in Rajasthan, then you might be unlucky enough to make it all the way to Bangalore Fort. This once wondrous city now sits in rubble thanks to the alleged curse that corrupts the grounds. Legend says that a wizard fell in love with a princess sequestered in the fort. He wished to take her hand in marriage and would use magic to seduce his bride-to-be. But when she circumvented his trickery, he cursed the land, and any person who would dare to enter the land at night would not return after daybreak. Coming in at number 4, we have the Monte Cristo Homestead in New South Wales, Australia. At first glance, you might be bewitched by the beauty of this building, but it would only take you a moment after you pass through these doors to feel the ominous chill that envelops this home. The building has the presence of an old British home that was built for you to enjoy the sunrise and exotic landscape of Australia, but perhaps being built on stolen land brought darkness to the residents that no one has been able to escape. The list of horrors that have taken place here stretch long, and some of the most brutal are a boy being burned alive and a baby being thrown down a set of stairs. Both of these tragedies apparently were caused by supernatural forces. It's still unknown why the spirits here are so hostile. Some people think it could be the former owners of the home who reject anyone who tries to take their place, or it could be an ancient curse that is trying to keep the land barren. But whatever it is, you should stay far, far away from this place. Coming in number 3, we have Lawang Siu, Indonesia, a massive structure that has stood the test of time. This thing has been hanging around since before the Second World War, and the Victorian looking structure is elegant and would make you think that princes and princesses have roamed here while traveling through Southeast Asia. When I look at this building, I think of long ball gowns and elbow-high silk gloves, but the wonders of this engineering marvel are cut short when you find out what took place in here during World War II. The Japanese invaded and quickly turned the once charming structure and transformed it into a torture den. Executions and interrogations would take place in the basement of the building, and it said that many people took their own life on the property. Now the place is haunted by more ghosts than you can count. Many of them are headless. Also, there are rumors that the Kuntilanak calls this place home, which is a horrible phantom that will feed on your life force. Coming at number 2, we have of the Obvany Canal, St. Petersburg, Russia. Dazzling still water runs through St. Petersburg. On a calm day, the canal can look so perfect you might mistake it for a mirror. But be careful when you look into the water because you might see the lady in white. Even though the canal still looks like it was created to celebrate life, it has been cursed with quite the opposite. The nickname given to this spooky spot is Canal. For some reason, it seems that people are drawn to this place when they want to take their own life. Most of the people who jump into the canal are successful, but the people who are rescued usually have the same response. They talk about how they don't know why they did it. They feel as if something was drawing them in to jump into the water. Some people say they have seen the previously mentioned lady in white floating under the surface. And the haunting tales of this place go all the way back to the construction of the canal. Back when the canal was being built, construction workers would randomly attack each other, and they said they would hear voices. And coming into the number 1 spot, we have the Ancient Ram Inn, Waddington under the Edge, UK. A cozy little inn that has been around for almost 1,000 years. How do you keep a business going for that long? I can barely keep a plant alive for more than a week, and somehow this inn has been going on for longer than an empire. And when you look at it, it looks like it was pulled right out of The Hobbit. You would expect to walk into this inn and be greeted by a barmaid who has a huge smile, gives you a backhanded compliment, and then you both laugh and get wasted on the best beer that you have ever tasted for $2 a pint. Really, it seems like it was pulled out of a dream. But when you find out that it's not only super haunted, but there are things haunting this place that are simultaneously aggressive and terrifying, then you will never want to come visit this travel spot. Apparently the inn was built on a pagan burial ground, and people used to come here to sacrifice children for rituals. Wow, that sounds warm and fuzzy. Well, some of the ghosts of these sacrificial kids now call this place home, and they are in constant terror. People will see visions of screaming kids who are in terror either from reliving their death or because they are being terrorized by a demon that lives on the residence. Yeah, if ghost kids weren't enough to freak you out, what about a demon that has been walking around and will sometimes push people down to the floor or onto beds? Yeah, this place sounds terrifying.